Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CEO 1440 show, where we talk about mortgage, sales, life, maximizing your 1,440 minutes. And I want to kind of start off with this story. So about 2-3 months ago, I got a new job. After years of running my own stuff, I got a job. And I started reaching out to people because I need help with CRMs. We've got just all kinds of moving parts. Talked to this girl that I used to know. Her name was Jamie Chapman when I knew her, then Jamie Noel, right? Living legend inside of the rocket world. And she said, you need to reach out to Mike Berris, and they're doing really, really cool things with Salesforce, all kinds of stuff. They'll get your CRM dialed in. So that takes me to us sitting here today. I reached out to Mike. We had first met back in 2006-ish and working in Southfield, schlepping loans over at the big red machine that is Rocket Mortgage. And so we're reuniting here today to talk about a bunch of different things. They've got a few different products, super in-depth and knowledgeable inside the CRM space. And if you're here and you follow this channel, I think it's something that even if you don't use them, I think it's something that will help with your thinking, your mindset, and what might be the next steps for you and your business. Mike, welcome. Is it Mike or do you go? It says Michael on the thing. Are you now Michael? Because a lot of people start out as Mike in their 20s and then in their 40s turn to a Michael. Or are you a Michael?
Great question. For those that know me well, I've gone by Berris basically my entire life. There's too many Mikes and Michaels out there. If I'm putting my full name these days, I put Michael, but really call me Berris. That's what I go by.
Got it. Okay. I've noticed that it's a trend for people. They start out like Pat McGinnis. We both know him. Pat was a Pat McGinnis, and then he became a Patrick.
Ooh, that's a very official, mature.
Yeah, no, like when I get official, I become a Patrick.
Yeah.
You even have to say it with a different inflection point. So what I want to talk about here today, and the community and the people that listen to here is primarily mortgage people, title people, real estate, a mix of people there. But ultimately, it's just salespeople, people looking at taking advantage. And I think that the world today is probably less about the industry that you're in, but more just about the skill set and the things that you do. And I know you guys are crushing it over there. So I guess I'll just kind of go back a step. Tell me a little bit about yourself, what you're doing today. And we last worked together 2011 or so. Then you had a pretty decent run there at Rocket and off doing your own stuff now. So give me just a little rundown of where you're at.
Sure thing. First off, John, thanks for having me on the show. Excited to be here and have a chance to chat with you a little bit. Background about myself, for those of you that don't know me, I go by Berris. My name's Michael Berris. I started the Big Red Machine back in 2005, I believe it was. And I spent the first decade or so, a little more than that, of my career in sales. I was a loan officer and then a sales director and then a senior sales director at Rocket Mortgage. So I was deeply embedded in mortgage. And then one day, for those of you that know TB, I was talking to him about what the future of my career looked like. And he asked me, like, what do you want? I said, what do you mean? I want to be an RVP. He said, why? I said, that's what's next. And what he said to me at that point was, that's just basically a director with a different title. It flipped the script in my mind. And I went from like a week later from becoming a director in banking, pivoted my career into sales operations to stand up what at the time was called QLMS. And so I started off QLMS, now known as Rocket Pro TPO, to build up that B2B section of the business with Austin Emick and Mike Fawaz and the whole team there. But we were the first ones that came in to join Dave Schroeder and everyone that had done great work. They had set up QLMS, who was doing about $7 billion a year in funded loans. And I was responsible for setting up the infrastructure to make it more like B2C, more like the retail side of Rocket. And so I share this because it was an important pivot in my career where I went from sales to sales operations to figuring out about what CRM was at the time, Salesforce. And I asked someone, hey, I want to be able to get a folder sent, not received report. Everyone knows what that is. And I want to be able to make dials easier. Some really basic things that we had at Rocket Mortgage. And the response that I got from the person that was responsible was that Salesforce doesn't do that, or it takes too long. And so what I did was maybe normal for me, but not normal for us, was I spent that weekend teaching myself how to use Salesforce, realized it could become a superpower. The following week, I built those things that I wanted myself. A month later, I was leading the team of 2 people. A month after that, I started growing out my career to be more focused on sales technology and operations technology and not just sales. to the point where I grew out the engineering team and product team for Salesforce to 50 folks, left Rocket Mortgage, went over to National Debt Relief, became chief product officer there, responsible for all technology, CRM being a big one. And then about almost a year ago, I said, you know what? I'm done doing this for others. I want to now do this for myself and my team and build it up from scratch. So I started this organization that we have now called Hello Mavens, which is a IT and AI enablement consulting company. The few different products I love to talk about, but enough about me. I can go deeper on any of that. But John, does that kind of answer who I am in a nutshell?
No, I think that it gives it out there. And I think that one thing that I found just after leaving, I was at Rocket for 15 years or so, right? There's a reason they're worth billions of dollars. And they're the little isms and the foundation behind it and the things like being obsessed with finding a better way and don't set, right? Whatever they are, I can probably find an ism book someplace around here. But those things carry on to other areas. So I always find it enlightening or easier to work with people that are from Rocket, because if they could survive inside of there and thrive, you can set a certain level of expectation as far as what you're going to get on the other side. Probably also if I was to go and hang out with a bunch of Navy SEALs and we were to go on like a backpack ruck or something, I'm going to make the assumption most of them aren't quitting a mile in just because they've got a foundational core. So again, anybody that's out there, if you get an opportunity to work with people that were inside of Rocket for a long time, you can make the assumption that they had to have a bit of resilience and they had to execute at a pretty high level. Otherwise, you'd get run out. Just good to know. So you left there, lots of different moving parts, but I initially reached out to you because I'm at a company now where they've been in business 6-7 years. We've got thousands of leads. Things are all over the place. It's just not really working super efficiently. And I believe in today's world, what I'm sitting with and looking at and trying to build out is I've got thousands of things that I could do. And the reason I was reaching out is there's thousands of things that I could do. Data is it's just too much. It was like, what are the real big things that I need to do? Where should I go? What should I focus on? And we got to talking. You gave me some fantastic ideas. I've executed on some, not all. We're not in Salesforce. I think that there's probably something for you and I to do. I'm just here and we're getting basic things in place. But with all that kind of being said, you talk to a lot of people. I'm guessing you're on calls all the time with people. What are you seeing right now out there on the landscape of businesses? What is the one area where, and I know there's not one, but what's one place that you just see a lot of businesses, people faltering inside of that whole data mining, data space, making sure that leads are called, what are you seeing out there?
It's a great question. And it's funny, the answer that I have for that doesn't change much when you're looking at large enterprises. Having been at Rocket Mortgage, an executive there in sales and technology, chief product officer at National Debt Relief, and working with smaller companies, small to medium-sized companies, it's oftentimes the basic blocking and tackling, not losing the trees for the forest in things like speed to lead. How quickly are we getting to the leads that we reach out to? We all know by now, hopefully, if you're watching this channel, that the faster you reach out to a lead that you got, you increase the chances for conversion. Spending time talking about A/B testing, if I route it to this person versus that person, those are nice to have, but until you've got the basic blocking and tackling, who are we routing things to? Are we getting the right visibility to our leadership team and to the individuals? That's the big stuff. I was actually just got off a call about an hour ago, and the biggest opportunity for a very high-performing mortgage broker firm was simply leads getting lost. We're buying all these leads. We're following up. We've got a dialer. They make the first call because we force it on them in the dialer. But then what happens on day 2 and day 3 and day 4 until it gets cold? How do you ensure that hygiene of the business, I like to call it, the basics that you need to do every morning, every night to make sure that your business is clean? That's where it comes up, small, medium, and large organizations.
I'm taking notes here. I'm dealing with some hygiene problems myself, and it's self-created, right? Again, I don't even know if I told you, I'm at a company now called Zoom Casa. We buy about $1 billion a year of real estate. actually help sellers flip their own homes. So we have lots of avatars, right? I've got agents that are reaching out that we can help an agent with their listing that's maybe not going anywhere. We're in on realtor.com. If you submit for a cash offer, it comes to my sales team. So that's two separate avatars. One dude or dudette that's trying to figure out what to do with them. They make a first call, and after the first call, it becomes a la carte because you might have different needs than the next person. I just don't have. I can't say with any certainty on a scale of 1 to 10 that I know I'm working 50% of my leads at an 8 or better, because I don't know what's an 8 for one person or what's not an 8 for someone else. And if I go on Instagram, what I would be told is Go High Level connects with Claude. Just put them together and use my prompt and it will automatically fix everything. Is that true?
I wish it was that easy. Claude and AI tools these days are absolutely incredible. I've built some amazing things in a short period of time. It's not necessarily as easy as just go to Claude and say, fix it. It gets a little more nuanced than that. It depends on exactly what you're working on.
And the reason I say that is somewhat tongue in cheek in that you keep seeing these things about all the stuff that you're missing out on or that you're not doing or you should be doing. And I think what you said is it's still just the basic blocking and tackling, just getting that. And
exactly. You could go to Claude and try to do something, but a lot of people are trying to stay on that cutting edge, that bleeding edge, but really think about the basics, the blocking and tackling, the hygiene. If that's not right, everything else becomes a waste. We can probably reminisce on the days back at Rocket where we would talk about these pie in the sky ideas of how we wanted to take over the world and not just be number one, but be 10 times better than number one. Yet we couldn't figure out how to properly prioritize and handle our suspended loans. We couldn't figure out the order of what lead should be called next in Lola. Those are the basics before you get too advanced.
And would there be like just an ideal starting point? Like when you sit down on a consultation, you probably have, I'm guessing, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but my guess is before somebody hires you, they probably need 1 to 3 hours if you're giving them stuff for free, right? You're talking about ideas, strategies, and then they come in and say, yeah, let's implement this. What's like that foundational part? So anybody that's listening here, if you have leads and your leads are a mess, which I've been doing consulting in the mortgage space for 3 years, and I've worked with hundreds of companies, I can tell you 95% of them have really no clue when it comes to what they're doing with leads. It might even be higher than that. I'm saying that I do some stuff with a company called Madison Mortgage that uses Salesforce. You may actually work with them. I have no idea, but they've got it really dialed in. I've got a couple other that just buy a very skinny thread of leads and they have only one, right? We're going to be a low-cost provider. We're going to use this CRM and plug this and this in, and we're just going to do bank rate. And they've got it dialed in. But as soon as people go wide, it's a mess. What would be a good starting point?
The starting point where we generally try and start our initial discovery conversations is to really seek to understand what's going on with the business today, rather than prescribing things that I've got a bucket list of things that I know can work for many different companies. I'd first try and understand where's your opportunity. Let's talk about sales versus operations, getting someone into the funnel from a marketing perspective and a sales funnel perspective. And then what happens after you've got them in the boat? How are we doing operational on keeping them in the boat in terms of retention, closing time? And so we break it down. We figure out where the biggest opportunity is. If the opportunity is discovered biggest in post-sale, we'll go in operational. If the biggest opportunity is pre-sale, we'll dig in there and figure out if it's marketing or if it's sales. Most often, we find the biggest opportunity is in sales side, especially for mortgage specific brokerages. Operations is second, and then marketing is usually pretty well handled because we all know how to buy leads and where to get leads, or we're running referral based business. So that focus mainly is sales, and then we dig deeper into there and we talk about what are their inputs, what are their levers that they know about, how do they know that things are working the way they should, that people are following up. And what we oftentimes find is they're not sure. It's done based off spreadsheets or walking over and looking over their shoulder and seeing how they handled a lead, or it's asking a question. They don't have the ability to see what I like to call the funnel. If you were ever watching this and you were at Rocket Pro TPO, you're well aware of the funnel, something I made to help as an individual account executive in B2B, as well as a leader, to understand exactly where your business sits at any time. And that idea has expanded in my work since then, and it applies to B2C, B2B, to understand what should I be doing? How do I get that visibility? but it starts with that discovery and asking the right questions. And one question that is oftentimes the most eye-opening is, tell me what your sales process is. What is your sales process? And it's not just we pull credit and then we ship it off to a lender. No, what does it mean as soon as you get a lead? What questions are you asking, and what status does that mean it's supposed to be in? Do you just have a new lead and a contacted lead? Do you have attempted to contact? What does it mean to attempt to contact? Like, how do you build the muscle on what that is? You don't just, John, I don't know if you still do this, but back in the day, you were a big weightlifter. I always looked up to your professionalism in business and in working out. You didn't lift just however much you wanted to lift. You would have a plan. This is what I'm going to lift. This is why I'm going to lift. These are the muscles that I'm going to work. Do you feel like, as a mortgage broker, or really an owner of any business, do you understand what are those steps we're supposed to take, and what does it look like to be on a happy path? And if you don't have it defined, we help folks to define that.
I personally, right now in my new gig, have went through and revamped my entire sales process. And I run it on what I call my 6 or 7 C's. So I actually have C number 1 is the client, determining who is the client avatar, what are they doing. Step number 2 is a curiosity phase. I have to figure out who the client is. I have to make them curious. I then have to provide some context, right? Because just curious, but no context behind it, right? So I walk them through a series, and in each one of those things, I have recently defined out. So it goes from a new lead to contacting. Inside of contacting, there's 6 steps. We attempt 6 times, 3 texts. What am I trying to do inside of there? Probably could do way more. Just I have a small sales team, and I've found, you've probably see this as well, tech can help a lot, but we have these grandiose illusions of that we're going to do 7 calls inside of the first 8 hours. What happens, just anybody that's out there, if you don't have the bandwidth to do it, I believe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you're better off scheduling it to make 1 call and actually executing on it than you are to have this grand plan of 5 calls and only executing on 1 or 2, because it just becomes busy work to where people are just trying to complete the task and actually get a job done. So again, it's a yin and a yang of trying to figure out what is the sweet spot. We're hiring a bunch of new people. And so I have spent a tremendous amount of time trying to figure out, and we're using Go High Level, which is great and not great all at the same time, in that as I hit each one of those milestones, and we move our pipeline left to each one of those milestones, when they fire in there, I know there's 7 or 8 tasks that I need to do inside of that area. And this was where I was reaching out to you. Like, probably there is something bigger that I need. I just am not like right now today I'm working on, I guess I probably could do it all, but each one of those I need to have something. But I've also coached enough mortgage people. The only reason the process is not messed up on the back end is Rocket, TPO, and United Wholesale. If those 2 companies didn't exist, the whole thing would still be just a shit show. Right. But those 2 companies dictate and mandate what the process looks like. And then everybody else just followed. And it's probably more UWM created a process and everybody else just tried to copy that and maybe make their own tweaks and improvements. But they single-handedly just made the broker world way better, in my opinion, by creating a standardized process.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the going back to the basics you mentioned earlier. Before you figure out how to make sure 6 calls are made or 8 calls are made in a certain period, make sure the 1 call's made. And we've benefited so much from what UWM has done. I'm definitely biased as my experience at Rocket and specifically at Rocket Pro TPO, but both amazing companies that have done incredible things for the broker community. And I think competition's a beautiful thing. The idea of understanding, like, what is that basic, the 1 dial or whatever that process might be, lends itself to scalable technology. Because again, one of the things we do is not just talk to you and then build massive technology. It's also business consulting to understand. I think back at Rocket, we had the CPP. Remember the CPP, the client profile? Yep. I never remember what the 3rd P was for, the 3rd letter was for, but there was a ton of things on there. Presentation. There was a ton of steps on there. And one of what I would say, one of the worst decisions that I think was ever made at Rocket was trying to take the CPP and take it verbatim and make it digital. Put everything on the CPP in, at the time, Lola. It was too much, because there's some things that are basic blocking and tackling that should be implemented very specifically in your CRM, whatever that is. And there's some things that are part of the art and science of sales that live in a CPP-like thing. And they don't always have to be exactly the same. That's part of why working with a consultant helps you to figure out what should live in the art here and what should live in the science and how do they blend together.
I've been wrestling with this very thing myself lately, in that I was always a flow type salesperson. Like you had your first 30 seconds were scripted, then there was just a lot of flow. And then you had a close at the end that wrapped it all up and kept the process moving, but never cared. Do I ask about income first, or I don't care the order? Yep. And I've been now leaning more into, after just consulting and working with a lot of people, I've been leaning more into actual hard scripts. You say the script, you say it with repeatable, these are the things that you say in this order and in this order for a reason. And I've been wrestling between that and with AI and everything, I can get different forms of grading where I can get calls graded relatively easily at scale to say, did it hit the 7 points? What was their enthusiasm like? Were they upbeat? What was their rate of speed? How fast were they talking? How slow were they talking? Because believe it or not, that stuff matters. So I can get all this stuff. But again, it's like, if I do all that crap and I still don't do something else in the beginning, it doesn't really matter. I'm like, if I go back to the weightlifting analogy, if I can't do just a basic squat, like sitting there working on my pinky strength isn't really going to help me that much.
Yeah, it's interesting because trying to adapt these two analogies together, in that situation, you shouldn't be working on your pinky if you don't have the squat down. But if you're a bowler, maybe the pinky is more important. Maybe. I don't know. And I say that analogy because it's for different people, different companies. Sometimes there's not always a truism, something that is true for everybody. Now, that doesn't always apply. I think everyone needs a sales process, but not everyone needs the same sales process. So for some people, many, you need that regiment. This is the flow. This is the order that you go to. And sometimes you have that, I'll drop a name here, like an Amy Fernandez. We both know Amy. She is, my opinion, one of the best loan officers in the country. She's incredible. I tried to duplicate her on my team with other people, and it was pretty much impossible. She's so unique in everything she does. If I tried to force onto her, follow the script this way, I would harm her and the production of the organization because it doesn't work for her. So how do you think about that as an organization to leave enough flexibility to allow your top people to move in top ways and to allow your bulk, your masses, to follow that process? And this is all part of that discovery of what we build to ensure it does it the right way, not just the way that we think works. How do you make it adaptable to all the scenarios?
Yeah, it's right. It's an interesting dilemma I'm working on trying to tackle right now myself. And I'm probably just based on what I've got not a newer organization, been around for a long time, but looking at scaling out a remote sales team across the country. I need continuity across these people. I'm not bringing in a bunch of mercenaries to go in. I'm not Blackstone or Treadstone or hiring a bunch of Jason Bournes. I'm looking at, I don't need mercenaries that are out doing it their own way. I need something structured and accountability, ways to hold them accountable on the back end, and really KPIs to say, did it happen? Yes or no? Be able to have a foundation of, and maybe it probably is a little bit of, there's some sheet music, but there's also some jazz involved in that. You can play off a little bit as long as you hit the major beats, you can dance around over here. So I think this is all interesting, and I've seen the same thing, and you're in a space that needs all kinds of help. In that I've been consulting these companies that they don't even do, very few of the mortgage brokerages, and I dealt with individual loan officers, small teams, or in the last market over the last couple of years, these guys are making 7 figures. Like they're a loan officer with a small team making $1 million a year. And some of these people are running off of spreadsheets, Excel. They have their clients in Excel, and it works because it's so simple. They just execute on the really simple thing. Other people have super elaborate plans and they fail. So there's just so much nuance there. And it's really about the execution. But also, I believe the guy running off of the spreadsheet with the right parts could do way more.
Totally. If you're a small shop, 1 or 2 people, trying to make things complex with a CRM, I'm never going to come up and consult with a guy that has that shop and try and make something that complex. You don't need that. When you're that type of person, a spreadsheet might be all you need.
Yeah, I was on the very first pilot. I was the first pilot of Lola, was my team back in 2002. So the first CRM at Rocket. And so ever since that day, I've been like, I feel it's a necessity, but I'm learning now that maybe it's not.
It's, again, how many companies are the one or two people? And one or two people, if you're doing 5 to 10 loans a month, that might work. It's part of like discovery and understanding. Once you start getting to a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen, like at some point, that's part of the conversation. You learn it doesn't scale forever. It scales up to a point.
So I have this is another selfish question. So let's say I've got my sales team, and one of the hardest things has always been reporting. Like you talked about hygiene, knowing what's in there, what's not. What would be a recommendation for somebody like I have, call it 10 salespeople. We make a few hundred dials a day. We're getting 100 to 300 leads a day. So we've got like what would be the best way if you were to be consulting me? We use Go High Level. We've got a bunch of different things. We're in Google. We've got access to every email that's ever been sent out. Like we've got a fair amount of data. What would be the best way for me to get data if I wanted like a dashboard to really get the heartbeat of my team, the things that matter?
Sure.
What would be the best way to do something like that?
So great question. So there's 2 things that's come to mind of the maybe 3 that like the big things that if you don't have these, I would recommend you have them right away. One is speed to lead. Define what does that mean? Like really specifically, because you can't just say speed to lead. I've seen companies talk about 100 versions of what that means. Figure out what that means to you. Lead create to lead dialed, right? So that's not when did you connect. Like these definitions are important. So understand what your speed to lead goal is and what your speed to lead actual is as a company, by team, and by individual. You should be coaching on that because we all know at this point that the faster you call a lead, the higher your conversion is. So speed to lead, you need to have that defined, reportable, and coached to anytime it is outside of whatever your SLAs are. That's one. Number 2 is visibility as a agent, whatever. If we're talking mortgage brokers, that's the primary audience that we're talking to today. I'm a loan officer. I need to be able to easily come in and open up whatever system it is, like our Loan Maven product that makes this really easy, is you come in and you have a dashboard and it says exactly what your fresh leads are. These are your fresh leads sorted by the fresh lead that you got most recently. Again, it's to hit that SLA, but SLAs are more for leadership. This is for a loan officer, and you want to drive those SLAs down, make it easy for them to log in, and the first thing is they see the first lead that they should call. So that fresh lead experience, it should be front and center. Shouldn't have to go rooting around or clicking on a bunch of buttons or links. Our Loan Maven product makes that really easy. And in fact, it does that for the SLAs as well. Because the more you put that in front of them, the lower your speed of lead is, the higher your conversion is going to be. The third piece that also is included in our Loan Maven product is what do you do with the leads that are no longer fresh, but they're not yet converted? They haven't had an app sent out. They haven't had a full application taken. Define your sales process within that. We help folks do that. I've done this a lot at my experience at Rocket Mortgage and NDRs. I was responsible for creating this exact thing, like who we call, when we call, and why we call them at both Rocket and NDR. Figure out what that is. How many times should you call them per day? It's not 10 times per day, and it probably shouldn't be 1 time per day unless you're dealing with a long sales cycle partnership type thing. So how often you should call them per day? Usually it's somewhere between 2 and 4 times a day. You need to figure out what your thresholds are for when they fall off that list. Like, for example, is just attempting to call, or does it have to be a call over a certain duration, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute? And then you basically figure out this is the hot list that your salespeople live in every day after they've called their fresh leads to follow up. Because you and I both know in our sales experience that it's not about calling them once. It's not just about calling them twice. It's something like you keep getting significant conversion up to, I think, the 7th contact. And I like to use this terminology. I don't know who came up with it. I'll be honest. It might have been Jason Pace. It might have been you. Who knows? Air, land, and sea. You define that process of who you follow up multiple times, and then you hit them through Airland C, phone, text, email, whatever the case may be, multiple times, multiple ways. And if you do those three things, which many companies don't or not well enough, your conversion will increase massively, more than any attempts to change the conversion of in-process loans to closing. That often feels like the easy wins. Oh, we already got them to sign, and that's true. You want to maximize your pull-through, but we spend a lot of money on buying leads. And if we can turn that conversion from whether you're at 1% to 2% or 3% to 6%, and you want to get that dream state where you're doing 10, 20, 30%, not just referrals, I'm talking about lead buys. If that's possible, it's only possible for those that have a dialed in process for an individual and for the leadership team to keep track of that.
And that's your Loan Maven product?
Yeah, our Loan Maven product does all three of those things and a lot more to make it easier for brokerage owners and loan officers at those brokerages to manage their day more effectively so they can spend more time selling and less time thinking about who to call.
And then what, you plug into a lending pad, a whatever, you're going to plug into their LOS?
Yeah, great question. So right now we directly integrate with Arrive, and we're building out future integrations with other LOSs and directly into other lenders that allow that. So you can have one CRM to control your sales process and your processing and integrate into those various LOSs.
And just out of curiosity, I know you didn't come here to do some pitch fest, but people that are listening, so let's say I have been struggling. I have some CRMs that I've recommended throughout the years. I have some, and in the CRM space for the most part, on all these high-level platforms that are out there, like the small companies use, the person running that means way more than the platform on the back end in that space, right? If you've got a really organized person that's there doing it for you, that CRM might be great. The one right next to it stinks. What's just a price point? If I am a broker, I've got 5 people. I've been running right now on, I don't know, name some Bonzo as my CRM. I'm paying a couple $100 a month for a seat. They've got my credit card on file. I can send out so many emails in that. Is it similar to that? Is that kind of how you're set up? You come in, you get them rolled out, and they're paying per seat, and they get your expertise along with the seats. Is that how it works?
So great question. Currently, the way we're designed is we had this initial hypothesis that people are sick of paying for monthly SaaS prices because as you continue to grow as an organization, you continue paying forever. And so the current model for our Loan Maven product is actually something that we work out together based on how many people you have at your organization today. One cost, implementation, you get the product, it's yours to move forward on. So over time, when you're looking at a scale of a year or two, you end up actually saving money long term because you pay once with us and you move on. Over time, basically you own the product. And so you just get it and you're done. You move on. You don't pay monthly to continue with the product with Loan Maven today. We've gotten some other feedback, though, as any product continues to grow, that some people, they really like the monthly SaaS pricing. So we'll be releasing that in the next few months as we continue to grow our Loan Maven product out to be something that you can buy once and just own it. You can pay monthly if you want to pay a little bit less right now, but more long-term. And then by the end of the year, we're expanding our Loan Maven product to actually not require any CRM. It will actually be the CRM later this year so that you won't need something like Salesforce or Shape or Be in Touch or Be High Level or whatever the heck the new CRMs are that come out. This will just be a dedicated mortgage CRM for you that integrates with the various LOSs, with the major difference being the team that we have built at Hello Mavens to develop Loan Maven comes from a background of working at Rocket Mortgage, developing the technology that from a individual loan officer perspective is known as the industry-wide, it's the best out there. UWM does amazing things for TPO, but I don't think anyone has struck a claim to say that they've got a better process than Rocket from a retail perspective, and that's our background. That's my background developing. There is sales and technology. So we've designed this to be like, what if Lola, what if AMP was modernized? So that's the unique thing that's different about Loan Maven and how we're planning on growing it out throughout the year.
Got it. That's cool. So again, someplace here in the show notes, I will give you guys a link to just, if you want to book a call with Berris, get on the phone and figure out what they're doing and if they can help you. Awesome. And then also, You can go to his LinkedIn, and I'm looking at it here on my other screen. It says book an appointment right there. So if you have any questions, like just a little CTA here in the middle, but you can jump over there. Now, Hello Mavens, what is that? So you've talked about Loan Maven is this product here that does all these things. What is Hello Maven? That is a CRM that's like out there today. And
let me help describe what we do as a core company. So we started this organization after I resigned. I left Chief Product Officer role at NDR to start this company with my co-founder, Carrie Proxel, who was also at Rocket with me. And so Hello Mavens is the parent company. Hello Mavens is a business and tech consulting company. We often spend a lot of our time focused in where we specialize, which is Salesforce CRM, but it's really CRM in general, everything in that ecosystem: telephony, databases, backend, ERPs, integrations, analytics, whatever it might be. And a big one is also AI enablement these days, which is a huge thing that we're talking about with all of our customers of how are we enabling AI intentionally and in a scalable way, because it's not just pop on Claude, make stuff. It's like, how do you really make it for the business? So that's Hello Mavens, business, IT, tech consulting. Salesforce is big, but it's that whole ecosystem that surrounds it. The main thing that we deliver there is things of how do we improve your sales and operational efficiency. It's what we did at Rocket and NDR. It's what we'll do for clients and what we do for clients today. The second thing is we have two products as a company, Hello Mavens, that we offer. One is Loan Mavens that we just talked about for brokerage owners that have shops they want to grow and scale up to drive more sales and operational efficiency. But the one that is newest, and I'll share something that we're really excited about, I'm happy to go deeper, but it's called WhenGrow, which is a family name named after my mother, her maiden name, my grandfather. And it's about companies that want to grow, and they're saying it might be kind of silly, but when should we grow? The answer is today. We should leverage AI. It is a simple tool that we designed together at our company to say, hey, there's a lot of companies that want AI. They're not sure how to step into it. WhenGrow.app is the website, can spin up a new AI sales chatbot in about 90 seconds. Not months of figuring it out and procurement and this and that, but literally you can have a chatbot that you can pop onto your current website, or will make you your own website in that same 90 seconds. So you can have AI that doesn't just answer questions. We're all used to chatbots that answer questions. That's easy. What's different about this, and comes from my experience at Rocket, especially in sales, was a chatbot that will answer questions. Let's say they want to know what's the difference between a refi or a purchase or FHA versus conventional. It will answer those questions, but more importantly, it will then qualify that individual. So instead of having a lead form where hopefully they enter their name, number, and email, it will literally ask whatever questions you want to qualify that borrower. And it will then send that information and create the lead in your CRM, whether that's Salesforce, HubSpot, or Be in Touch. It'll send it anywhere. So now you have a sales agent, an AI sales agent that operates 24/7 on your website. So that's our third product. We're really excited about that one. I'm happy to answer any questions for folks from the booking a meeting or here on the call.
Yeah, I see. Where are you guys at with voice? There's all these now voice agents all over the place where they're like making outbound phone calls. I get a ton of them every day. It seems like they're all using the same thing where have Sarah be in what sounds like a busy office, and it's got the noise buzzing in the background. Are you guys also offering voice agents? Are they just text?
Good points. Right now, WhenGrow is a chat-based experience. We are planning on expanding it out to voice and SMS and WhatsApp and Instagram to respond to DMs and things like that. But it's an interesting thing you bring up because we're in a wild time right now. AI is changing every week massively. There are tons and tons of companies offering voice AI agents, and everyone I listen to still feels to me like not something I would feel comfortable answering. The voice, it blurs this uncanny valley. That said, I can't name the company that this happened for, but we were involved with a company that implemented voice AI for an outbound dialer. That was typically, these are low intent leads that were handled by a frontline or blueprint type group of folks. And so this company compared what that blueprint like group was doing manually outbounded versus the AI outbound. Conversion was triple with the AI voice outbound. So it's the future. I just think it's still in its infancy, and you got to really get it right. And that's why we haven't released it for the WhenGrow product yet, because if you don't do it right, it ends up worse than doing nothing.
Yeah, I was affiliated with the company for a while, and they rolled out a chatbot that almost 4x their live sales team to application. So it wasn't slightly better or the same. It was almost 4x more, to the point stop letting their sales team have live leads. Right? It became an oddity that you would give a real live lead to them. You would hand it over there. So as soon as people came to the website, you were just trying to get them over to begin interacting with bots.
That's what I love about, and I had so much fun building WhenGrow, because it does exactly that. You can qualify the lead as much as you want, and if that person visiting your web they're done filling it out, you've got the lead. You call them. If they want to talk to someone, you just escalate right then. It's all built in. But now, the reason I built it was I was sick of sending leads that just had a name and an email. I want to know more. I want to get a qualified lead, and now you can get as much as you want. So it's exciting stuff. Excited to see more people use it.
So I have a question for you. How do you handle this? So I like to ask questions where the answer yes is a no. So if I was asking you, would you like to book an appointment? I wouldn't say, hey, Berris, would you like to book an appointment? Because you're like, no, that's okay. I will ask, would it be a crazy idea for me to send you a booking link? No, that wouldn't be a crazy idea. It's easier to get a no than a yes. Same question, just asking it in a different way. I have tried this with multiple bots, and all of them, when they hear my question, would it be a crazy idea to send this? They hear no. They're hearing the client say no, not yes. Right? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
They're answering no, and the bot then is trying to counter. They're trying to handle an objection. There was no objection.
Yep.
And I don't know if the bot's just not smart enough yet to see that I'm asking the question backwards. But I've had multiple instances, and I like that question a lot, because I can get way more people that will say, sure, text me over the booking link. And we confirm it. Just want to confirm that this is your number, and I have authorization to text it. Yeah. And off we send them booking links, and they book right away. And
it's a unique thing that why. So there's a lot of discussion of excitement of AI, that you can do so much but really the devil's in the details of how you tune these AIs, how you make sure that they understand, because it's, at the end of the day, AI is still a machine. It's still a machine predicting what the next thing it wants to respond to. And so if you don't teach it how to handle a response like that, it won't handle it right. So you got to make sure that you set it up right. It's part of why there are products like WhenGrow. If you don't tune it, then it will do the wrong thing. It reminds me of, you went from yes or no versus forced choice versus no. This is an ambiguous response. You need to teach it how to handle that ambiguous response. That's the difference between, I think, a sales chatbot like WhenGrow and just a regular chatbot.
It's messing with me right now. I can get very good on calls, right? We had a thing answering calls, and they'd walk through, okay, can I talk to so-and-so is a bot? And we'd say, unfortunately, they're unable to take a call right now. Let me see if anyone's available. It pauses for a second. If we don't have anyone available, would it be a crazy idea for us to send you a link to book a call? That was the message. People would say no. And then the chatbot would try and fight with them to see, why don't you want to? And then what we would do inside of our sales process, as soon as we send them out the booking link and they book, I just would ping all of my sales, and they would just pull them. Hey, I saw you just tried to call. You booked an appointment for 2 hours down, and we would just make the call then. So we were using it as like a filter. Yeah, we'd pull them up instantaneously. Like it became top of the list. We just wanted to see if they would give us their name, those kind of things, instead of just answering the phone all day from Jimmy calling because he wants to sell us life insurance or something. So again, just trying to crack those things. But is this something like with the Mavens product? Is this something where you could come in and help like me at a different company? We don't do mortgages. We're mortgage adjacent.
Yeah.
But is that like where your business is at? Like you would come in and map out all of the steps and say, here's your biggest hurdles and your biggest obstacles. You have to tackle this and this first.
It's exactly what we do. At Hello Mavens is one of our products is Loan Mavens today that's dedicated to mortgages, but we make custom products for any company of any business type for what they need. Because at the end of the day, the details might be a little bit different, but at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out how do you improve sales and how do you improve operations, and that's what we specialize in. So while the WhenGrow product I mentioned is really specific for anyone who wants an AI chatbot, Hello Mavens, we build software for anybody to do anything. We come in and diagnose and what you need together, have a conversation, and we build it out for you.
Awesome. We for sure have additional conversations to have. I have some more just questions for you. If anybody's still here listening, they're probably at least somewhat into this whole thing. And the world today, I have a belief, and I don't even think it's a belief, it's the truth, that we are in the least, AI is the worst it's ever going to be today. And the amount of stuff that you're going to be able to do as somebody that understands this product, tomorrow you can get 2, 3, 4x more productive. Our wife sent me a text today about she needed help with something. She wants help doing something on, and she was like, AI is dumb a year ago. Now she's giving me more, which is great.
Yeah.
But so I don't want somebody calling you, who is your ideal client? So I don't want somebody calling you that's a mortgage broker that's doing 4 loans and they've got $200 a month to spend and it's what they're spending right now. Who do you probably have a sweet spot. Who is that sweet spot? That way your calls, you're not just booked with a bunch of calls of people that just want to take your time.
Great question. Typically, we're working with clients that are generating a minimum of $1 million a year in revenue. And most of our clients are closer to that 5 to 10 million and more in revenue. But I don't want to be the type of consulting company that tells people we won't help you. We offer this 30-minute complimentary consultation call with myself directly that you can schedule for my LinkedIn for anybody. So you just want to have a conversation because maybe today you're not quite there, but you will be in 3 months or 6 months. So I'm open to having conversations with anybody, but primarily we're working with organizations, not just mortgage, but any company that's doing $1 million minimum, but 5 to 10 is our average. And we've got organizations that we're working with that are doing $500 million more in revenue per year. That's our experience. We've worked with startups all the way through massive enterprises. So while we don't typically work with those smaller, we don't also typically work with the multi-billion-dollar enterprises, but we'll work with anybody because that's what we've done for many years.
And based on everything you're seeing out there, what's the biggest, just for the normal person, just trying to do more, entrepreneur, you run a small company, like what are some of the biggest levers that you feel people outside of just embracing AI? And you mentioned way back when you went and spent some time just over a weekend of learning how to do something, just being wired different. But I think that you have to be wired different today to make it.
Yeah.
Like average is not a good place to be. The average person's 20 pounds overweight. They have diabetes. They get a divorce. They have more debt than they have assets. So being average is it's just not a great lot in life. What are some levers that you just feel everybody should be pulling out there, understanding about the game of business life today? It's the barrier to entry. It's what you have to be doing.
Yeah. I harken back a little bit to my days as a sales leader because it's held true the entire time. You have to spend time in the game and on the game. And a lot of us today spend all of our time in one or the other. We're in the game because we're afraid to focus on the business to grow it. We just know how to sell. Or we feel like it's been so long since we've sold, we're afraid to sell, so we're just focused on the game. You got to do a mix and you have to plan for it and you got to be intentional. So those are like the biggest things that I say. If you start there, be curious. Like, what is it? Ted Lasso says, just be curious. Spend time in the business, spend time on the business, and be intentional with that time. It will lead you to incredible places. If those places are working with Hello Mavens or teaching yourself about AI or about CRM, those are the edges, the niches, the riches in the niches that have worked out well for me in my career. That's how I learned how to do Salesforce. And before that, when I led corporate relocation at Rocket, and I just taught myself how to download the code for Lola, and I shipped a change to the code to Lola for Relo, and that would have made a huge difference. And I'll never forget, the head of sales at the time was like, what is a sales leader doing trying to change the code for the CRM? Because I don't just act in the business, I act on the business. I have to blend that time. And by doing that, I was able to help evolve and level up corporate relocation. I did the same thing with Schwab when we did white label at Rocket Mortgage. It's thinking different, living in and on. And if you can't, then what we recommend in our consulting is then you can't own everything. You need to delegate. You need to delegate and have someone on your executive team that is responsible for that. Because if you defer one or the other, you will stagnate. You will not grow. And maybe that's okay for some folks. Maybe you want to be the loan shop, which is the average. The average loan officer, the average real estate is doing 1 loan a month. If you want to be average, you probably can forget about everything we're talking about here. But if you want to do 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 per LO, that's when you really got to start thinking in and on the business.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people are just kind of sitting around watching to try and see what's the next step. And my own belief is right now today, the work and the effort I'm doing today is not for anything that's being done today. It's really, I have to put in this time today to be relevant in 6 months. It's the way that I'm looking at it. If I don't do it, I have to prepare for 6 months. So the decisions I'm making today are for me in 6 months. And I don't know if they'll be right or wrong. I just know that I have to make a decision, and I can't try to optimize for today because the world's changing so fast. I have to optimize for the future. And so if I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that we were going to actually have global warming and it was going to be 20 degrees warmer every day, like sitting in a sauna today is a really good thing because my body will be accustomed to it when it happens. So that's what I've been just leaning into and telling people that I'm with. What do you think it's going to look like? What's the world going to look like in 6 months?
I love that. And you got to experiment.
Yeah. If your food's coming and everything comes to your house via a drone, don't go out and buy the $100,000 car. You're not going to need it. So prepare for what it's going to be.
Peek around the corner. A lot of people used to say that about Dan Gilbert, and I believe that to be true. He was obviously a visionary, but also he was really good at having a great team and being able to look around the corner to see what's next. And we can all be that in our own way. We can think through what's it going to be. We can experiment with the chatbots or with AI. Don't sit on the sidelines waiting for someone else to tell you what to do. You'll already have lost. Jason Pace used to say something to me. I don't know if you ever worked with Jason Pace back in the day, but if you're on the field, you're in the game, and you need to be constantly playing. There's no waiting. You're not an actor out in California. So you got to take action. You got to execute. And even if you make the wrong decision, it's better than no decision. It will keep moving the ball forward and you'll learn from it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This has been super helpful. Again, anybody, if you have questions for Berris about Salesforce, any of that, getting your poop in a group with regards to CRM, data, leads, those kind of things. I know I need help. And I've helped lots of other people, so I know there's a ton of business out there for you. Find him on LinkedIn. It's Michael Berris, Berris. And I'm looking at the booking link right over there. You can do that. I'll include some stuff here inside of the show notes. But every single day we get 1,440 minutes. The most or whatever you do with every one of those minutes matters today. And you're living for your 6 month self, your 1 year self, 5 years down the road. But you owe it to yourself to invest today in what you will be in the future, and you will have a lot less regrets. So, Michael, I appreciate this. This has been helpful. I've got a bunch of notes, things on my end that I need to do. I'm well aware of it. So thank you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on the show, John.
Hey, you are very welcome.